Good evening. I'm Dr. Geeta Kumar, Senior Advisor with Talenomics India. Given the level of stress that leaders and potential leaders, especially women, are facing in the current world order, we've brought out a holistic well-being session for you today. This guide will help you chart out and incorporate a well-being roadmap into your leadership journey. We are delighted to invite Dr. Sheela Nambiar to help you build your well-being guide. Dr. Sheela is a practicing obstetrician gynecologist, a board-certified lifestyle medicine physician, and a fitness consultant. She's also the founder, Training for Life, and one of the founders and current president of the Indian Society of Lifestyle Medicine. She will be taking us all through a roadmap for holistic well-being that will help us both professionally and personally. This session has been specially created, this session called Leading with Holistic Well-being, as a valuable takeaway for you all to use whenever. And therefore, we would encourage you to share it with your peers, colleagues, and families too. So over to you, Dr. Sheela.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to thank Talenomics India and CAS for giving me this opportunity to talk about this really important subject of holistic well-being and how it applies to the entrepreneur, professional, working person. So, what do we want as entrepreneurs, professionals, and people who want to lead? We want to show up every day in the best way possible. We want to be the change that we want to see, and certainly we want success. So for all of these things, we need to be in optimal health. According to the WHO, the health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not the mere absence of disease. In a similar way, I'd like to define success as the state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not the mere accumulation of wealth, name, or fame. So the key message in my presentation is going to be that you can take your health into your own hands, and you can optimize your health, prevent disease, be more productive, and be the best version of yourself. In a recent article I read, it said that the high-level executives, among the high-level executives, just 12% were women. And in a research article that came out from Montreal, it said that women are more likely to suffer from burnout. And why is this? There is lack of personal satisfaction, possibly emotional exhaustion, depersonalization, low level of authority in your job, lack of job security, and of course, balancing act of the work-life environment. And I think most importantly, time management. All of these can be taken into our own hands, once again, by some of the principles that I'm going to bring out. So what are the aspects of wellness that we can take control of? Exercise, diet, sleep, stress, and relationships are the primary ones. There are many more, like environment, addictions, and so on, which I won't go into. I'll focus on these 5. Now, John F. Kennedy has been famously known to say that physical fitness is not only one of the most important keys to a healthy body, but it's also the basis of dynamic, creative, intellectual activity. And this is certainly very important for a professional. Exercise has innumerable benefits: physical, psychological, mental, physiological, and social. From a physical perspective, which is the most obvious, you look better, you feel better, you lose weight, you don't have aches and pains because of the correction of muscle imbalances, and so on. The psychological benefits include an improvement in mood because of the endorphins that are released in your brain. It improves your resilience to stress, which is very important for somebody who's working. Stress is a given. It's about how we cope with it and how we bounce back from a stressful situation. It increases optimism, it increases positivity, and several more psychological benefits. The exercise has been found to be extremely beneficial to the brain. It increases what is called as the brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF, which increases the number of nerve cells, number of neurons inside your brain. It increases mental clarity, decision-making skills. It increases the area in the brain called the hippocampus, which is responsible for memory. It increases the blood circulation to the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for executive function and decision making. So what's there not to like, especially for a person who is a working person and requires their brain to be in a complete and top working condition. Physiologically, exercise prevents a whole host of diseases, particularly the metabolic diseases like the non-communicable diseases like your diabetes, hypertension, metabolic disease, even cancer. So when we look at exercise as being beneficial, it is really the panacea of everything. Prevention of all of these metabolic problems, improving psychological health, improving your physical well-being, and so on. So why is it then that we know these benefits? Why is it that not all of us implement and introduce exercise into our life on a regular basis? The WHO actually recommends just 30 minutes in a day, 5 days a week, which is just 150 minutes in an entire week, which surely is possible when all of us have just 24 hours in a day. So in order to implement exercise, we need to pay attention to a couple of things. The first thing, of course, is to manage your excuses. And this means that you really need to stop making those excuses, because 30 minutes to 40 minutes in a day is not asking for too much. And from talking to women for over 2 decades, what I found is it's the busiest women who somehow manage to make the time for exercise, probably because they manage their time better, and intuitively they know that exercise makes them better people, makes them function better, and increase productivity. We need to understand the difference between what is called as NEAT, or the non-exercise activity thermogenesis, and exercise. These are two different things. NEAT is nothing but the calories or the energy that you burn on a day-to-day basis, walking around, sitting, standing, climbing stairs, pushing, pulling, and so on. And that's very different from the 1 hour of exercise that you may participate in. And it's important to remember that just because you participate in exercise for an hour doesn't mean that you can sit for the rest of the day, because sitting by itself is an independent risk factor for disease and even lowered longevity. Exercise has to be non-negotiable. The 1 hour that you set aside in your 24 hours needs to be something that should be prioritized, as important as, let's say, your morning ritual of taking a bath, cleaning your teeth, and so on. It's that important. And your routine essentially needs to be personalized. And what I mean by this is it needs to be something that you really enjoy. Otherwise, it's very unlikely that you will sustain it. It needs to keep in mind your goals, your needs, your fitness level, your gender, your age, etc. So what do we do when we exercise? What are the things that we need to include? We need to include cardio, which is nothing but anything that increases your heart rate. It could be walking, running, swimming, cycling, etc., which increases your cardiovascular endurance. You need to include strength training, which is essentially working your muscles against resistance. It could be your own body weight, it could be dumbbells, it could be barbells or machines in the gym. And this is a very important aspect of exercise, which is highly underestimated, especially by women. But the importance is there because most Asians, and particularly Indians, suffer from what is called as sarcopenia, or low muscle mass. And this sets us up for metabolic disease, for frailty, for falls, injury, and so on. Increasing muscle mass, increasing strength is extremely critical, and it has been shown to even help in not just fat loss, but the sustenance of the fat loss. Flexibility is your third pillar. The flexibility means that the elasticity of the muscles, which tends to decrease with age, so we need to train with flexibility using yoga or dynamic or simple stretches. Muscle endurance, balance, coordination, all of these are the minor pillars which also need to be focused on. So essentially, your exercise routine needs to be designed with varying proportions of cardio, strength, flexibility, etc., again depending on your needs and goals. The second pillar is diet. What we need to understand is the difference between a fad diet versus a lifestyle of healthy eating. Fad diets come and go, and it's a multi-million-dollar industry. Most of these fad diets don't last. The long-term consequences of fad diets have not been determined. So what is important is for you to identify the best way of eating and implement it into your lifestyle. So what is the best way of eating? To give you some context, I don't know how many of you have read the book The Blue Zones by Dan Buettner. He explored the areas or the places in the world which are known for the highest number of centenarians, or the people who live for more than 100 years, and not just live, but live healthy, meaningful, purposeful, productive lives. Some of these areas are like Okinawa in Japan, Icaria in Greece, Sardinia in Italy, and Loma Linda in California. And what were the commonalities that he found in these areas? One of them is the kind of food that they ate. They ate primarily a plant-centric diet. Some of them did include animal products, but it was not on an everyday basis, and it was certainly not processed animal food. They also moved a lot, and they had very close and very meaningful social connectedness. So, using this Blue Zone study, what lifestyle medicine recommends is what is called as a whole food plant-based diet. What does this mean? Your diet needs to be plant-centric, primarily whole grains, vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds, and beans. Animal products need to be minimized. You need to be moving along the spectrum, which means that if you eat a lot of animal products, try and bring it down to the minimum that you possibly can in the week. Eliminate processed food and sugar, and keep oils to the absolute minimum. Why is a whole food plant-based diet beneficial? It is anti-inflammatory. We know now that most chronic diseases and metabolic diseases stem from inflammation in the body. So eating an anti-inflammatory diet is certainly going to be beneficial. It's high in nutrient density. It feeds the microbiome, or the trillions of friendly bacteria that live in our gut, which essentially control or influence everything from our mood to our weight. So keeping them healthy and happy is in our best interest. It's also sustainable and certainly satiating because of the high fiber content. Sleep is the third aspect of well-being, and I think this is probably even more important than exercise and diet, and also given less importance too. 7 to 8 hours of good quality sleep is what is recommended, and in this graph you'll see that as the hours of wakefulness increase, the productivity or functionality, performance decreases, and can even be compared, is equivalent or even greater than what is considered acceptable for alcohol intoxication. That's how important good quality sleep is to improve our functionality. And the key thing about sleep is it's when we sleep that our body is restored. It's when we sleep that the lymphatic system removes toxins from the brain. So inadequate sleep essentially makes us less functional. How do we improve sleep? First of all, understand the importance of sleep. Increasing the awareness about the importance of sleep helps us to prioritize sleep. Practice what is called as sleep hygiene, which means you try and get to sleep at the same time every day. Keep the temperature in your room on the cooler side. Take a warm bath before you sleep, and so on. Cut off screen time from our various devices well before sleep, which I know is very, very difficult for all of us, but the blue light from the screen appears to affect the quality of our sleep. Practice mindfulness meditation or any other form of meditation that you are used to or you can learn. Yoga Nidra is a form of guided meditation which can help you fall asleep. It's a form of relaxation. Regular exercise, especially early in the day, seems to set the stage for a good night's sleep. Eating well before sleep, bedtime, 2 to 3 hours before bedtime, is absolutely essential. Avoiding alcohol is important because while alcohol may help you sleep, it produces rebound wakefulness, which is not helpful. And getting early morning light into your eyes, just for a few minutes, even 3 to 5 minutes, by looking up in the sky and allowing the early morning light to enter the retina, seems to help set your circadian rhythm for a better night's sleep. The next aspect of well-being is stress. As we all know, stress is a given. Everybody has some element of stress. It's how we manage stress that becomes important. Prolonged unmanaged stress affects every system in the body, raising blood sugars leading to diabetes, reduces immunity leading to infections and various other autoimmune conditions, altering heart rate, creating irregular rhythm leading to heart disease, hypertension, producing erectile disorders and problems with infertility, problems with ovulation, which lead to infertility, anxiety, low mood leading to things like panic attacks, affects the gastrointestinal tract, producing irritable bowel syndrome, malabsorption, ulcers, and so on. And stress eating and the effects of cortisol increase levels of obesity. So when stress affects literally every system in our body, we need to learn how to manage our stress. So some of the ways in which we can manage stress, mindfulness is probably the most important. And mindfulness is nothing but staying in the current moment without judgment. So not wanting to be in the future, not beating ourselves up for something else that happened in the past, but just staying in the current moment, doing the best we can without judgment. MBSR is nothing but mindfulness-based stress reduction, which can be learned and practiced and is extremely useful. Various relaxation techniques, for example, Yoga Nidra is also very useful. Exercise and yoga, as I've already said, is extremely useful to improve resilience to stress. Most importantly, managing our expectations. It's because we have unmatched expectations that most of our stress, that's where most of our stress stems from. So managing our expectations and focusing on what we can control rather than focusing and getting stressed about what we can't control are probably the most important aspects of managing and responding appropriately to stress. The last but not least, I think the slide, the words are not seen, but I'll explain it. The last but certainly not least of the aspects of wellness is relationships. We don't think that we don't seem to understand that our relationships are probably the primary drivers of our well-being. Social connectedness is what is the key, one of the key factors of well-being. Authentic relationships where you are allowed to be vulnerable, where you feel nurtured, are important to improve sense of well-being. Toxic relationships and ambivalent relationships, on the other hand, appear to be detrimental to our health. In fact, ambivalent relationships where you don't quite know where you stand and there are undercurrents that you're not able to identify appear to be even worse than toxic relationships which are openly hostile. Social intelligence, emotional intelligence, which improve social connectedness and improve quality of relationships, are extremely important. In a long-standing, more than 75-year-old study from Harvard, where they followed Harvard graduates for several years, more than 75 years, the most important key takeaway from this study was that relationships matter. So all these graduates who came out and are varyingly successful, despite being successful, despite having wealth and name and fame, the important thing that they mentioned to the authors of this study was that their relationships were probably the most important, that made them feel good about their life and gave them meaning. So, an improper diet, inadequate sleep, poorly managed stress, not enough exercise and activity through the day, poor quality relationships, and unhealthy addictions are the primary drivers of ill health and lack of success. This is nothing but poor life choices, because all of these are within our control, and we can make the positive choices to empower ourselves. So, if you want to be fit to lead, you do need to make exercise non negotiable. You do need to follow a sustainable and healthy diet. Value your sleep, understand the importance of sleep, learn to manage your stress appropriately using the various stress management techniques, and most importantly, pay attention to your relationships because they matter. So, my key message and takeaway from this is that one needs to empower oneself to take health into their own hands in order to be able to optimize productivity, functionality, and to be the leaders and to be the professionals and entrepreneurs that we want to be. And true empowerment and success comes first from making positive choices about your own health. Thank you so much. So, I'd like to thank once again Talentnomics India, Cass, and Geeta, and this wonderful team that's obviously put in a huge amount of effort to get this together, put this together, and giving me this opportunity to talk about holistic well-being. I hope you can take a few points from my presentation.